start now.
Welcome to the Inspired by Adventure podcast, Season 3, Unique Entrepreneurs. Here is your host, serial entrepreneur, Wayne Brown.
Welcome to Inspired by Adventure, Season 3. I'm Wayne Brown, serial entrepreneur and this season's host. We will be exploring the lives of fellow entrepreneurs, how they got started, what motivates them, and share their business experiences. Entrepreneurs are a different breed. We're risk takers. Gut feeling drives a lot of our decisions, and we thrive on change. We have learned what it takes to surmount difficulties and create success against all odds. The fact that we and our companies are still standing is evidence enough that we have a wealth of knowledge to share with all of you. So today, everybody, we have as my unique entrepreneur, Perry Barinowski. Perry founded Airstat Charters, providing private flights out of Thomson, Georgia. Welcome, Perry, and thank you for taking the time with me today.
Yes, sir, Wayne. Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate that.
So everyone is always interested in successful entrepreneurs and their backgrounds and how they got started, where they're from, how they ended up where they are. So if you can give us a background bio, that would be great.
Okay. So I was born in Augusta, Georgia, and attended local schools here. And, it was funny coming up through grade school. I got interested in World War II aviation and read 30 Seconds Over Tokyo and things about the Flying Tigers and all that sort of stuff. And that just kind of sparked my interest. And that interest lay dormant for a while. And I guess when I was a sophomore in college, I had already looked into flying and went and took some flying lessons. But I married a gal from Rome, Georgia. We've been married for 28 years. Her name is Sherry. And let's see, so raised here, have family going back a couple of generations. So,
well, every successful business fills a gap that's not being filled, either because of the customer service side or because of the actual service that you're providing. So how did you decide that this service was necessary in Thomson, Georgia?
So I had been a corporate pilot for a while and also flown for the fractional industry, and had a company that I was actually happily employed with that went through a merger that didn't really work out too well, and just got dissatisfied with the life and all that sort of stuff. Started working for some other companies, and I just kind of felt like, with my experience in the service part of it, that was something that's often lacking, and just felt like I could make a go of it. And had no idea what I was biting off, but that's how I've just felt like I could provide the service aspect of it. Anybody can fly an airplane. Well, that's not true, but you can teach anybody to fly an airplane almost, but if you can, the service is the huge part of it. And I felt like that was lacking.
So when did you start Airstat?
That was in 2004.
And did you start with one plane at that point?
So you start with one airplane. Part of the difficulty in starting a business like this is you have to own the aircraft. And I actually had some friends that had an airplane. We kind of used that to piggyback and start the process. And it actually took me 2 years to get the certificate.
And so what was the first plane you started with?
A piston engine, twin engine aircraft, a Piper Navajo.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many and what type of aircraft are you up to today?
So, it's funny, when I started that business, I thought that was going to be it. We're going to have this little airplane, and this is kind of where my career has gone. But unbelievably, we now have operate jets and only jets. We have 2 light jets, and we're going to be adding a mid-sized jet and then also a super mid-sized jet. So that's going to give us 4, which is going to broaden our options, I guess.
So with coming up on 4 jets, you obviously have to have quite a few pilots in your stable. How do you decide when you're interviewing them? Because it's such a unique position flying private, corporate and personnel around. How do you decide when you interview them that they're going to fit your business model?
So, it's I think Herb Kelleher was the president of Southwest Airlines, and he was a famous person because he kind of approached things differently. And he really said, I hire the person, I hire the personality, and you can train them to be a pilot. So, obviously the people that come to us are already interested in aviation, but we're looking for, again, I emphasize service a lot because without the service, you're not going to be flying, especially at this level, the clientele that you're with. So we're looking for somebody that plays well in our sandbox. You've got motivation. They see problems and they solve problems before they happen. They don't have to be driven. I'm a very hands-off type guy. I hire people that know what their job is, know how to get it done, and do it without being told.
Private jets obviously are cost you millions and millions to add each one. So for entrepreneurs out there that have a business that have very expensive capital requirements to add assets, how do you decide when it's time that you can spend these millions and millions and get the return on it?
Well, I'll have to tell you this. Thankfully, we're able to buy at the right price. So we're not having to spend quite as much as it might seem that you would need to do. We buy good quality aircraft, and we don't buy new aircraft. Just the cost is so prohibitive in a business like this. So I always knew that, or I shouldn't say I always knew, I learned that the more capability you have, the more business you will generate. So when I had that small aircraft, there was a limit to what I could do. When we upgraded to a turboprop, we went to a King Air, we got rid of the piston aircraft, business began to grow because we had more capability. And then it just became obvious. It's like, you got to have jets. That's what all successful and large charter companies fly. They fly jets. Public perception plus just the economics of it mean you really need to be flying jets. So we looked around for what would be the perfect airplane for us, and we came up with the Citation 5 because it's kind of like a flying SUV. It has decent speed, decent range, and a lot of room for people to take their stuff. So we had one. And then if you're familiar with the concept of a black swan, along came a requirement by the government to it's called ADS-B. So it was a new avionics thing. So we had to actually go and retrofit that airplane and spend significant money on it. And so we were forced with having to shut the business down. Well, we needed a second airplane. So that was a no-brainer. So we got a second one. And then found out that we needed two. And so, my goal is to build my certificate. So the more range and the more territory that I can go, means I've got a larger customer base. And therefore, if we're going to do that, we need an airplane that'll go there. And that's what the Falcon did. So we went up to an airplane that has a great reputation and great capability. And it's just it's kind of like the whole build it and they will come thing. If you have that supply, people are going to fly in it.
With your customers typically being either wealthy or higher net worth individuals and corporate executives, does that create unique challenges for you to deliver the level of service they're looking for?
I think it does. It's like but the one interesting thing about my business is that it is actually kind of varied. We have had for a while pre-COVID, we did a very thriving trade just taking time critical light freight. And we went all over, taking things. It was usually for the airlines, but we also do medical transport type stuff, not stretcher type stuff, but organ procurement, also medical. We did a skin graft, things like that. You go and pick up that sort of stuff. Then we have the pleasure trips, and then we have the business trips. So we do have a kind of a wide variety that we can pull from. But yes, I think that, again, it goes back to the service. If you're not providing the service, you will not have that clientele. Anything that is antithetical to airline flying is what we do. I'll have passengers, sometimes they'll show up and they'll be 15 minutes late. And I tell them, you're not late. If I wanted you to leave at a certain time, we would ride you on the airlines. So, it's all about having what they need, helping them. And we do it we don't just fly. If they need it, we'll arrange transportation and, catering and hotels, whatever they need, we do it.
It's every business obviously looks for as many revenue streams as possible. So it's great that you not only just fly corporate people or individuals, but you're also doing the medical and some of the cargo transport to keep those as many of those revenue streams going as possible, because not all of them are being in demand at the same time.
That's exactly right. And that number one customer there for a while was carrying Thomson City Freight for the airlines. And, look what COVID did to the airline. That business completely disappeared. And then we had another aspect that showed up that was able to fill the gaps. And honestly, right now, we have so many customers that are coming to us because we've developed relationships with brokers. So the brokers have a stable of customers that come to them to arrange their flights, and they come to us. We have a reputation because we deliver on what we say we're going to do and on the service, and they keep coming to us. So
thinking back to when you were flying as a employee to charter service, and now through owning your own high-end jet service, has the customer's expectations changed in the last 20 years that you've been doing this?
I think that, I hate to bring up the C word, COVID again, but, there has been some expectation, I think, with that, and so we take some extra precautions with cleaning and things like that, and to, germicidal type sprays and whatnot. But I think that, the customer is more savvy now. They understand, used to be everybody would join with a fractional company, and that just was a very expensive way to do things. I think they're coming and finding out that, especially if you go directly to the operator, we do use a lot of brokers, but there are people that come directly to us, and that, gives them a cost savings that they didn't have before. But I really think that that it is. I mean, we've flown people that are extremely famous. We've flown people that no one would know, and they expect the safety, they expect the professionalism, and they expect a good, clean, safe aircraft. And I think that's always been the case. And the more you do that, the better you are.
Every business is cyclical. You have highs and lows, and I remember back in 2008 during the financial crisis, there were in the news, there were several jet charter companies in Georgia, a couple of big ones, very big ones in Atlanta, that ended up going out of business.
Right.
How are you managing your business and assets and capital requirements so that when these downturns come, that you're able to make it through them whole and come out the other side as well as you are today?
Right. I always tell people, I won't say that all of our business is with the top 1% of wealth owners in the country, but we do deal with an expensive product, and those that generally don't feel the effects of any recession quite so badly. Also, having other sources of income definitely helps. I mean, let's face it, when we had the lockdowns, those 2 months, we were down 50%, and we were down 75% in the next month. People that normally went to football games or to vacations and things like that, suddenly they're not going. But other than that, our business recovered, bounced back, and is actually double over this time last year. And, I don't know what's driving it all. It can't be just people that used to pay, $300 to go ride an airline somewhere, and now will pay a lot more. But it's just, I think there's some pent up demand. I think people are realizing the value that's there. We have always focused on controlling costs. And we do that by the maintenance that we get. We get very good maintenance, but it's with a shop that we've been with for a long time, and we have a great relationship, and they help us control costs. I mean, it definitely is a teamwork type thing. We also do it through shopping for the best prices on fuel. And I'm just very aggressive about trying to save money as much as I possibly can, because it's the only way to survive.
So, not every great employee has the drive to become an owner themselves, an entrepreneur themselves. A lot of them, it's usually the risk. They're very risk averse and just not willing to take on that risk. So how did you make that transition in your mind from being a contracted pilot to saying, I'm willing to take on the risk of these millions of dollars in jets and make a go of it?
Yeah, I think an intractable stubbornness. It just, I am I do have some personal drive, and if I have a goal, I definitely want to do what I can to solve it. And there are a lot of obstacles, and I didn't realize when I started what the major obstacles would be. I thought it would be getting customers. It's not. It's the government, and so learning to deal with them and trying to get what you need from them is definitely was a thing. And at some point, I just decided these people are not going to beat me, and I'm going to get what I want. And so I think that kind of comes down to it. And you do have the significant financial investment in it. And I think that provides part of that. If you don't get out and beat the bushes and overcome whatever obstacles, you will not be doing it. That's for sure.
In my liveaboard business, we have one vessel that's flagged in the U.S. out of Hawaii, and we go to dry dock with all the vessels every 2 years for upgrades and maintenance work. And so they, in this last dry dock, decided to do some electrical upgrades. And so, speaking of government intrusion, they've been waiting over 3 months for the Coast Guard to send an inspector out to look at the electrical architectural designs and approve it, which it was hardly anything major. But because they touched one wire, the Coast Guard has to come out and inspect it. And it's impossible to get them out there because they're, half of them are still working from home.
Right. It was a shock to me, and obviously an eye opener, and we certainly learned a lot from it. When I first started, I thought, well, you don't want to call them and pester them, but you end up waiting and weeks go by. And I finally learned you need to call them and pester them. I mean, you need to be nice about it, but you need to be firm too. It's like, I need this from you. I have to have this. You're holding me back. And we've learned a lot. I've got a great team of people, even with what we're trying to do right now with add these other 2 jets. This time we've come at this in a more proactive way, and we've actually given them a time period. It's like, we need this done, and we need it done in 72 days. And here's all the stuff that you need, and there's no excuse for you not to do your job. And so, but when they work with you, it goes well. When they don't, it's difficult. So you have to learn. I found I had a few political skills as well. I mean, for someone who runs his mouth as much as I do, but so those are the challenges that are there, and you know what I'm feeling.
We've seen the same thing, that don't hesitate ever to call whichever department in the government that you're working with to try to get things through. When I was applied for one of the general licenses to start sending trips down to Cuba, I submitted all the paperwork online, and I kept checking the online database, which just said we got it, but nothing happened. And so finally I picked up the phone and called. You have to leave a message, which was fine. I mean, within a couple hours, they called me right back and said, oh yeah, let me, we've got your package. We're going to look through it. And, I'll call you back in a couple of days. We've got any questions. So definitely helped to pick up the phone and get things moving along.
We're in an industry that is expensive. And, here you and I are talking in a way that we would not have done 2 years ago. And so there is this technological, advances, but still being next to somebody and being across the table, is the way to get business done. And we still are going to be flying people to go and do business that way. People still want to travel, and there's a huge benefit to doing it this way. And what people often don't realize is, yes, this is an expensive product, but you take 2 or 3 couples, 4 couples, you put on now you can go and leave from your local airport, go on a wonderful vacation, stress-free as far as the travel is concerned, and you really haven't spent that much money. I mean, it's a first-class vacation, but it's not, so we're trying to get, some of that out in the public as well too.
So for those that have never flown private before, can you kind of go through the advantages all the way from when they arrive at the airport to when they arrive at their destination that they would encounter going on a private jet?
Yeah. It really is. You might could call it the old show there, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. But I mean, it's the ease. That's the number one thing. Yes, our product is more expensive than the airline product. However, what we deliver is also, I'll say it's worth it, because you have personalized service. When you call the phone, we answer it. We cater to your needs. You drive to the airport. It's all a very leisurely boarding process. You're cared for by professionals who are there for you. It's the safety is completely is the top of the line, and it's so convenient. And I took a trip to on the airlines here with my family not too long ago. Went to Costa Rica, and the stress, especially with all the stuff they're doing now and the COVID and all the rest of it, making sure you're wearing your mask and all the rest of it. I mean, which you can wear a mask if you want to, but it's just the ease of travel. So
when they get to the airport, there's no security line they have to go through, no metal detector. They just kind of walk into the airport and greet you, and then walk out to the plane and board.
Well, they have already been through TSA, because we are legally required to submit their names. So you've already cleared TSA. We're going to ask to see your ID. And, let's say you went on a hunting trip. We're going to make sure that your guns and your ammo are in separate, containers and things like that. And that's about as stressful as it gets. And then, everybody just walks out to the aircraft and boards, it's just, it's a very easy way to do things.
And when they get to the destination, the same thing. They just walk off, get their rental car, and head on out.
Usually, if sometimes people are arranging for transportation, or they've got a rental car, and mostly we try to get it plane side. Your luggage will be handled and loaded in your car, and you'll be sent on your way. You might have to walk by the FBO desk and sign for your rental car or something like that. But it's seamless. We try to make it as seamless as possible and as stress-free as possible. And it is a huge luxury, but it's a luxury with value.
Sure. Yeah, no, I can see that for sure. Especially I used to do a lot of trips out to California when I was a Taco Bell franchisee.
Yeah.
And I would be out there in meetings for, maybe 4 or 5 hours total, but I was gone for 3 days.
That's right.
And certainly trying to fly out there private, have the meeting and be back, in time for dinner would have been well worth it.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing too is that most people don't realize, I mean, your time is worth something. You don't have to be a CEO of a major corporation to have your time be as valuable as anybody else's. And when you board an airplane on a Friday morning and you go somewhere on a vacation or something, and you're back Sunday evening, well rested and all the it's just it's a huge thing. And I've seen it with some of our customers. As a matter of fact, I remember it was 3 couples. They decided they want to go to Martha's Vineyard, which is a very difficult place to get to on the airlines. So we leave out of the Augusta area. We go to Martha's Vineyard. They stay for their weekend. They come home. They were home Sunday afternoon, something like that. They're just standing on the ramp thinking, wow, what do we do now? Well, I guess we drive home and go to dinner. So, it was a very relaxing thing. It's part of the transportation is part of your trip, and it needs to be something that is as pleasant as it possibly can be.
Great. You're exactly right. Have you had mentors that have helped you navigate through becoming an entrepreneur yourself and an owner of a jet charter business?
I have. And, I'll tell you, Wayne, it's like I believe that my faith in God has given me a huge amount of strength. It gives me some centering, and also it widens my perspective so that I can look at some of these problems and think, they're not as big as I think they are in my head right now. In business, my father, it really is the guy that I'm a pilot, not a businessman, but I've had a lot of help from him in business. My first chief pilot, his name was Randy Brooks. So as far as the flying goes, he really, I look back on lessons that he taught me as a young guy, and think, that's the way he would do this. And then of course, honestly, in life, my wife, and she's always wanted me to do what has made me happy. And so I just feel like, in all those categories that, yes, this is not a one-man band.
Most businesses that have small businesses that have private owners that are typically not a one-man band. You need everybody around you chipping in to help.
You do, and you get information from everybody. And you have to be willing to go and ask questions and learn and listen, and you pick up stuff, I think.
So one final question, Perry, is there any other advice you would give to anybody looking to either become an entrepreneur themselves and have their own business, or they've been in business for a while and they're looking to grow it?
To me, I tell you, I think the fear of failure is the biggest stumbling block, and trying to understand, when you understand that failure is not a personal indictment, whatever. I look at it as the seedbed of success. Nobody likes it, but no one can have a business and not fail in some way. And I think that and that and just enjoying what you do. If you love what you do, I love to fly, and now I'm loving trying to grow a company. And when you love something, the money part of it is not as important as the success that it brings. And yes, if you're good at it, you're going to get some money out of it, and that just helps you make it through life and all the rest of it. But loving what you're doing, and not being afraid to get out there and risk stumbling is the two things I think that keep me going.
All right. Well, Perry, thanks again for your time today. So everybody, you've been listening to Perry Barinowski and realizing his dream to create Airstat, a private air charter service. Perry, thanks again today.
Thanks, Wayne. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for tuning into the Inspired by Adventure podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you haven't already, please subscribe through iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. See you next time.